Marinero, the sick podcast, the Montreal Canadiens have lost their first two games of the regular season. 2-1 in Toronto on Wednesday night, 5-1 in Buffalo on Thursday night as they wait to play the New York Rangers in their home opener. François Gagnon of RDS. Hello, Frank.
How are you, my friend?
Well, I'm doing good. Look, I have to tell you, a lot of my friends think I'm negative. It's just that the reality is negative, and that's what I'm trying to tell them. I'm going to tell you, I'm not surprised by this. They say that 2 games doesn't make a season, and it doesn't. But Frank, 9 months ago, I liked the Montreal Canadiens team. Now, 9 months later, I understand that they're missing some key players and they have some significant injuries. And when they get them back, they're going to be better. But despite that, I think this team is flawed.
Well, first thing first, yes, you are negative. Hey, that's who you are. It's in your temper. It's your DNA. I mean,
my mother's fault.
Maybe one day you will see the glass half full, but most often than anything, you see it half empty, and it's okay because we all know you, and that's the way you are, and that's the way we like you. Now,
thank you.
You're putting the nail right where it is, and it's not yet the coffin, but the Canadiens are worse than what they were last year at the start of the season because they're missing some key elements. I mean, the Montreal Canadiens without Shea Weber and Carey Price is not the Montreal Canadiens.
Of course not.
At this time last year, you and I and many of us, we knew who was Joel and Benson, but we didn't knew already how good he would be playing with Jeff Petrie and how better he would put Jeff Petrie as a player in better situations, in confidence. We spoke about Jeff Petrie many times, you and I, and he needs to be confident on the ice. He needs to make sure or to be sure that his partner will not put him into trouble and that he will have a clear mind on what he needs to do, on the skating ability that he has, which are great, on the puck moving abilities that he has, which are great. But if he feels that the team is not sound around him, well, he becomes less of a puck mover, less of a great skater, and that's what we saw in the first 2 games. No panic yet, but it's a reality. I mean, they played a decent game against Toronto, and the better team won because Toronto was able to get something on the power play that the Canadiens were not able to get. Last night? No, I'm sorry. It's not the better team that won. It's the team that played better than the other one. And that was not the Canadiens. They deserve to win and to lose and to lose bad. And the Buffalo Sabres, which are a mediocre hockey team, they deserved that win because they played with heart. They played with passion. They played like a team that thought that, hey, maybe we can win this game. And Montreal played like, oh no, not again. Like Detroit 2 years ago, like Ottawa last year, and like Buffalo for the last few seasons because the Sabres have a better record against Montreal than the reverse situation. So the Canadiens played and said, okay, this one is over. And Buffalo kept going and kept going and kept going, and good for them. It might be their only win this season, but at least they will be able to say that they were the better team on the ice at least one this season.
It's a sick podcast, and the show is brought to you by Essentia, the world's only natural memory foam mattress. Go to myessentia.com/sickpod and use code sickpod for a free pillow with your purchase. Essentia Beyond Organic Sleep. The Montreal Canadiens offense did not put Toronto to sleep. It did not put Buffalo to sleep. It put me to sleep. It was that bad. Francois, they're not going to win hockey games if the line of Suzuki, Caulfield, and Toffoli is going to play the way they played the first 2 games. My question to you is, if they don't produce versus the Rangers, how much more patient will Dominic Ducharme be? Because already some fans, some members of the media, some pundits are wondering when Brendan Gallagher is going to get a promotion because they believe he's wasting his time playing with Jake Evans and Yoel Armia.
Well, that is a great point. And Dominic Ducharme will not move his lineup or change or juggle his lines for you, for the fans. He will do it to make sure that he will not lose his room. After a preseason game, the first one of Brendan Gallagher, I asked Dominic Ducharme after the game, are you the type of guy who's going to reward a veteran, or you're going to go and ask your veteran to help your team? And that question was in relation of the role that was that I thought at that point that was going to be given to Gallagher, because from day one of the training camp, we saw Suzuki paired with Caulfield and Toffoli. So in the little brain of mine, but with the experience that I have, I said, okay, that's something that might stick. Just like we saw Drouin and Dvorak and Henderson stick after the first day of camp. Now, if you're Dominique Ducharme, you can afford to lose 1 game, 2 games, 5 games. But what you can't afford is losing Brendan Gallagher. And I know that Gallagher said, I will do my best anywhere they're going to see fit for me to play. He's going to say that. He's not going to go in front of the cameras and say, I don't believe this. With everything that I did for this team, why am I on the third line? Because that's exactly where he is. So they gave a chance to Caulfield. He didn't play bad in the first 2 games, but hey, it's welcome to the NHL. I know he did wonders in the playoff last season, and usually playoff should be tougher than the regular season. But last year, he took everybody by surprise. Nobody knew him. And now this season, Suzuki is identified as the number 1 center, rightfully so. Toffoli is able to score goals, maybe more against the Canucks than against other teams, but still he can score goals. So there will be the focal point of the opponents. And right now, the opponents are looking at them and say, okay, it's easy. So look at Drouin and Dvorak and Henderson. It's a little bit tougher, but it's not that tough. You're looking at Harmia with Jake Evans and Gallagher.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even tougher. Just like what Brendan Gallagher said last night. The guys in the other room, they feel it was easy to play against us tonight because it was. And that is bad. So Gallagher on the first line, I would say if it's not tomorrow or Saturday against the Rangers, it should be early next week when the Canadiens will play back-to-back at home. Well, I say back-to-back, but Tuesday and Thursday, because you can't afford to lose tomorrow.
Listen,
but if you lose 4 or 5 in a row, that becomes a big no-no.
I have a way of solving this problem, because if you put Brendan Gallagher with Suzuki and Toffoli, and then you put Cole Caulfield on that quote-unquote third line, then chances are Caulfield will struggle, and some will say, well, Caulfield should be back up in the top 6 and all that stuff. Francois, it's simple, and I know it's not easy, and that's why the general manager is paid big bucks. In my opinion, for the Canadiens to be a legitimate Stanley Cup contender, because at the end of the day, that's what you play for. You play to win the Stanley Cup. You don't play for anything else. Every centerman on that team is playing 1 spot above where they should in the lineup. That is as much as a fact as you can get. I like Jake Evans. He's a nice young man. He's an honest worker. He's reliable. He was 11 seconds shy of playing 15 minutes on Thursday night. He can't score. He's not a playmaker. He's never produced offense. That means for 15 minutes, you're not taking a lead. It means for 15 minutes, you're trying to limit damage. Jake Evans is in the wrong chair. The Canadiens need a centerman.
So where are you going with that? You want them to go for Jack Eichel, who's going to be there for in 2 years?
Listen, not necessarily Jack Eichel, because it's hard to get a number 1 centerman. They haven't been able to acquire one for 10 years. Until Suzuki actually becomes one with regularity, we can continue to say that. But either a second center and Dvorak becomes a third, or a third center and Evans becomes your fourth. They need a center. And I like Brooks, but he's not going to be the guy.
No, I agree with you on this. And let's, for one moment, for helping your heart, because I feel a little bit of passion right now. And it's dangerous because it's only 2 losses in a row. Wait until it's more difficult. What I want to bring you here, and the fans who are maybe a little bit impatient right now, and I understand that, this is the real training camp. This is why me, as a 58-year-old reporter who've seen too many training camp, which I don't go as much as I did before, I'm looking at a situation right now with the real training camp. The last 2 games should have been played 2 weeks ago with the real players, against real players, so that the management could say, okay, we have a plan for Jake Evans. Against American Hockey League players, against teams that are not a full lineup, he was able to do wonders because, as you said, he's a fighter. He's a proud player. He's quick. He's a good worker. But at some point, he has limitations. And we've seen those limitations. And it's going to be tougher and tougher from the game going and going and going. After 10, after 15, after 30, after 50, it's going to be a lot tougher. So
I love where you're going.
I have the answer for you.
Go ahead.
They don't even need a trade. Put Jonathan Drouin back at center. And I agree with you. It was maybe not the greatest move ever when he was there, but at that time, he didn't want to go there. And from my understanding, he is ready to take that toll. Drouin is not a sniper. He's a puck giver. Now, defensively as a centerman, I agree. It could be tougher. But give him Armia and give him Anderson. And then suddenly you have a good line. And when Mike Hoffman's going to be back, you could have Hoffman with Dvorak. And then you give a little bit more leeway to your first line because the opponent's going to look at the situation and say, well, tonight, guys, we might, have a look at Suzuki for the first 3-4 shifts. But if it's the third line that's better, you're going to move against Drouin or you're going to move against Dvorak. They have no superstar. So they need to make sure that the three lines are able to come on the ice and do something of interest, not only for their fans and for you who was asleep last night, but to make sure that the opponent will be on their heels and not having complete control of the situation.
So, unfortunately, Jonathan Drouin, to be a center in the National Hockey League, you know as well as I do, you need to play a 200-foot game. You need to be very strong in the circle. You need to be reliable and all that stuff. It's not an easy thing. Normally, I would disagree with you. What I like about it is that if he becomes a third-line centerman, at that point, he's probably going up against third lines. He's probably going up against third pairings on defense. So now all of a sudden, he won't be exposed as much for some of his shortcomings than he would if he was a first or second line centerman. And quite frankly, considering the depth that they have at the wing position, when Hoffman comes back, you're going to have a Toffoli on the wing, a Caulfield on the wing, a Hoffman on the wing, an Anderson on the wing, a Gallagher on the wing, an Armia on the wing. You're going to have to try and have three offensive lines. So you know what? I'm in. J'achète. I buy.
So, but that's good because, and again, it's not, it's no Jack Eichel, okay? We all agree with that. And it's certainly not Philippe Danault on the defensive side of the game. But if you put Jake Evans back on the fourth line, he can give you defensively what Philippe Danault was giving you, or at least I believe he can do so. Now, give those two guys, give Armia and Gallagher to Drouin. First of all, he will get a lot of passion from Gallagher that will help him. He will get some sound and defensive hockey by Armia. He will get a strong guy or maybe two strong guys on the boards to give him the puck, and he will be able to give it away, not to the opponent, but to give scoring chances to his teammates. Hey, I'm not telling you, Tony, that it's a sure bet and everything's going to work, but at least after what we've seen in the first two games, and it's a short span, and it's just a very quick sample of what's going to come for the future, but at least that would give three lines that would be legitimate NHL lines, and that would give you a chance to get something going offensively, not only on the power play, but also at 5-on-5, because Dominique Duchamp today said something really interesting. You can't, for the love of God, believe that you can be sound asleep at 5-on-5 and getting buried shift after shift after shift, not by the Colorado Avalanche or the Tampa Bay Lightning, who's having a slow start, by the way. They woke up in the second part of the game last night in Detroit, but that's another story. But he said, you cannot get beat all the time at 5-on-5 and believe that suddenly when you're going to get a power play, things are going to happen easily. You need to work and to work hard at 5-on-5. And you know what, Tony? You need to even work harder, but smarter when you're at 5-on-4, when you're having a power play. And even though at 5-against-3, which they had twice in the first two games, and they were not able to take advantage of that situation. We all know the weaknesses of the Canadiens. We all know the fact that key players are injured. That's when the power play needs to come and give you a tiny bit of help. Right now, they are -4 after 2 games. Buffalo Sabres, 3 goals on the power play. Toronto Maple Leaf, 1 goal on the power play. And the Montreal Canadiens, 0 like Ouellet. So that's over. They need to focus on that, but they need to start to be better at 5-on-5.
The Rangers visit the Canadiens on Saturday night. So if you're a Rangers fan, and the NFL season, of course, is halfway through. And if you're an NFL fan, you can pick up your jerseys of any sport, any team, sportbuffshop.com for all of your officially licensed sports apparel and more. And our sick merchandise as well. Use code SICK15 for 15% off all of their items. Putting Jonathan Drouin as your third line centerman, and then possibly putting Jake Evans or Matthew Perreault as your fourth line centerman, I think what's the beauty of that as well, besides the third line, is, Francois, and I say this really with all due respect, your fourth line has to have an identity. And the fourth line right now with Perreault and Paquette and Lehkonen, they probably have all the best intentions of the world, but they don't have an identity. Like, it's almost like they just go out hoping the other team doesn't score on them. Take a look at the Islanders' fourth line. They're able to change the momentum of a hockey game. And, fourth lines are usually lines that go out there and they big hit and they finish their hit. And they don't have that right now. They need to get the fourth line going too.
Well, that's true, because right now, as John Tortorella was usually saying to the players that he didn't like when he was putting them there on the ice, give me a nothing shift, nothing offensively, nothing defensively, but certainly nothing against our team. And right now, that's what the fourth line is giving to the Canadiens. And I agree, they need something, more hits, more grit, more talent with the puck, because if you have 4 lines that can score, I don't know. But right now, I don't like the mix, because we have 2 lines that are not producing at all, but we have 2 more lines that are not even able to contribute offensively and don't have something to give to the team, like a big hit, like something that you need at some point to turn the game around. And that's why the Canadiens lost last night.
Francois,
one of too many reasons.
A Jeff Petrie who doesn't have Shea Weber there to insulate him. A Jeff Petrie who needs Joel Edmondson back in the lineup. A third pairing on defense that doesn't inspire confidence. A lack of toughness at the forward position. Getting obliterated on the penalty kill. The power play has done nothing. Only 2 goals in the first 2 games. They've lost both. -4 on the special teams. Every centerman is playing a spot above. The poor backup goaltender doesn't look ready for prime time. I'm going to have some of this Johnny Bootleggers whiskey, old-fashioned, both refreshing and authentic to the classic cocktail, available now at the SAQs near you. I even have a headache. Oh, my God, it's so cold. I love it. Francois, until we do this again next time. Salut la visite.
Have fun. Let's go.
All right. We'll have fun trying to make some money. Let's go to my buddy Cash.
Money. It's time for Sick Picks. Brought to you by MyBookie.
All right, Cash, you can place your bets on MyBookie. Go to mybookie.ag/the-sick-podcast and use code SICKPICKS to double your deposit. Bet, win, get paid. Make me some money, buddy, because I'm in a bad mood. Only you can put me in a good mood.
What's happening, guys? A tough start to the NHL season, but I'm going to bounce back. I got a winner for you guys today. Minnesota Wild went 7 games against Vegas. They looked good in the playoffs. I like them a lot tonight. I think they're going to get the win. You could take them on the money line. You could take them -1.5. I think there's value there. Here's the thing, guys. Since I went 0-3 yesterday on my picks, I'm going to give you guys a free premium.
0-3?
Yeah, it was a tough day, man. It was a tough day. But look, I'm going to give you guys a premium pick that I sent to all my clients. This game is on Sunday. It's going to be the London game. I think it's at 9:30 Eastern. Dolphins, Jaguars. Take the Dolphins on the money line for a big play. I'm talking 2 to 3 units, guys. I'm going to be hammering this. So in a recap, Minnesota Wild tonight, Sunday morning, guys. Take the Dolphins on the money line. Tua's back. 2 good bets. Going to get some money back in your pockets. Let's go, guys. Easy winners here.
In the meantime, I'm going to be hammering away some Johnny Bootleggers whiskey, old-fashioned. Take it easy, Cash. We'll talk to you soon. Marinero, the Sick Podcast. Canadiens, wake up. Win your opener because you're not looking good.